Good morning, people of YouTube and the world. Welcome, Friday morning, and I'm out and about again. I'm going to see the new M Night Shyamalan film, Knock at the Cabin. I keep thinking Knock at the Door, which seems to me like a sensible title, but it's Knock at the Cabin. I'm on my way to see the 11:40 screening at my local View, but before I go, I have a bag of goodies that I'm taking to my local CEX. Been going through my collection of things that have doubles and things I've upgraded to 4K from Blu-ray. So when we get in the car, I'll show you what I'm getting rid of. Right, I'm in the car, heading off to see M Night's latest. But I thought I'd show you the stuff I'm taking to CEX. I've got a few bits and pieces I'm taking down to the CEX, get a voucher. I'm getting rid of 3 of the titles from Season 9 Doctor Who. Day of the Daleks, the Sea Devils, and the Mutants, as you'll have seen from a video I did a few days ago. You probably know anyway, Season 9's coming out on Blu-ray in March, so I thought I'd get rid of the DVDs now while they still have a bit of value. You'll notice that Time Monster and Curse of Paladin aren't there. When I dug them out this morning, they were obviously part of box sets. I think that Time Monster was part of one called Heroes and Legends, or Legends and Myths, and the Curse of Paladin was part of the Paladin box set, and on the back there's no barcode, they're not to be sold separately, so I think CEX probably won't be taking them, so looks like I'm stuck with them, but I don't mind too much. A couple of others I'm getting rid of. I'm getting rid of my Blu-ray of Krampus, the Christmas horror. I watched it again at Christmas, quite enjoyed it, wouldn't necessarily watch it again. It's worth a couple of quid for a voucher, so yeah, I thought I'd get rid of that. I'm getting rid of the Blu-ray of Kong Skull Island. I have that on 4K now. Only 80p at CEX, but hey, it's worth having. I'm getting rid of this set, which I bought in a sale on Zavi, I think last year or the year before. Never got around to watching them. They may well be good films, but they're worth 6 quid from Zavi. The Invisible Man Appears, 2 Japanese horror films from the 60s, I think. The Invisible Man Appears, and The Invisible Man versus the Human Fly. If I haven't watched them yet, I'm probably not going to, and they're worth 6 quid, so yeah, let's get rid of those babies. I'm also getting rid of this one. This is Season 3 of The Walking Dead. This is the Steelbook edition. Again, I got this from Zavi a couple of years ago for $7.99 or something in one of their discount sales. It's worth 6 quid. I'm so over The Walking Dead. I will it's not a show I'm likely to revisit, certainly not anytime soon, so I thought I must get rid of that. I'm also getting rid of this one. This is Howard the Duck. I like this film. I really like this film. I saw this for the first time a few years ago at the Starburst Film Festival. Really enjoyed it. Picked it up when it came up on Blu-ray. It's a box set with a book, but it's now on 4K. I've got the 4K. This is about 6 quid's worth, so away it goes. I'm getting rid of my Steelbook 4K of Captain America Civil War. Wouldn't normally necessarily get rid of a Steelbook, but as you've seen from my physical media video, if that's gone up yet, I've just picked up the Mondo edition of that, so I don't really need to double. And finally, earlier this year I bought, and in fact I did an unboxing, I think, of the Bourne Identity souvenir box set-y thing on 4K. I'm going through my discs yesterday. I've already got it on 4K. That's only a couple of quid at CEX, but I thought, well, I might as well get rid of it, slim things down a little bit, make a bit more shelf space. Right, that's what I'm getting rid of. Let's head off to CEX. I'll see if I can do some footage and filming there, and hopefully grab a little breakfast on the way too, because I've got plenty of time before the film. I'll see you in a bit. It's time for a quick look around my local CEX, which is in Merthyr. Yeah, I traded in my voucher, got about 34 quid, I think. Just looking quickly across the shelves, not focusing on anything particular. Slightly annoyingly, CEX, I think in all the branches now, they used to have a special 4K section, but now they just sort of feed them into the Blu-rays. I suppose they want people to look at everything that's on offer, which is slightly annoying when you're particularly looking for 4Ks, as I was. Yeah, just looking at fairly generic titles. There was nothing that jumped out to me as things that I needed or particularly wanted. Usual selection of cheap Marvels. Yeah, I mean, it's a nice selection. I think because I was going to the cinema, I didn't have time to look through properly Game of Thrones box sets there, if you're into Game of Thrones. If I'd had a bit more time, I would have spent a bit longer going through the shelves. Nope there, nope, no thank you, not for me. But yeah, it's a decent selection, but it's slightly annoying now that you have to look through everything for the 4Ks, whereas they used to have only a very small section at the top of the shop. But yeah, so a decent selection: Star Wars, Itonia, Trolls, fairly generic sort of typical stuff that you get in most CEXs these days. But I got about 50 quid worth tokens to spend now, so I'll be back soon. So there we are, arrived at the View near Merthyr, just on my way to see Knock at the Cabin. Don't let me down, Mr. Shyamalan.
Have you booked that trip to Northern Ireland yet?
Hello and welcome back. Right, a couple of hours later I'm back home and I've seen Knock at the Cabin. I'm going to have to work very hard to keep calling it that because I think it's a really clunky, awkward title. Knock at the Door just seems to make much more sense, and indeed Knock at the Door at the End of the World or something, which I think is the title of the book, is a better title. But there we are. Who are we to judge these things? Right, this is the latest film from M Night Shyamalan. I think it's probably the very dictionary definition of the inconsistent film director. Kicked off his career in the late 1990s, of course, with The Sixth Sense. He then followed that up with Unbreakable and Signs, so sort of a trio of fantastic calling cards for his potential in the future, which he then flushed away down the toilet with things like The Last Airbender, The Happening, which is laughably bad, and Lady in the Water. And he staged a bit of a comeback over the last few years, but he's still been quite inconsistent. And certainly his last film, which came out a couple of years ago, Old, I thought was pretty visible, with an interesting story ruined by a bad dialogue and a bad script. And I had fears that we might have the same here. This is based on a book by Paul Tremblay. Now, Old was based on, I think, a French graphic novel, and I was a bit worried that maybe M. Night would, in adapting or co-adapting this into a screenplay, might fall into the same traps as Old. Fortunately, he doesn't. I found this very entertaining, very gripping, very tense, and quite disturbing in places. Certainly one of his better films of recent vintage. Without going too far into the story, because I don't want to spoil what surprises it has. It's quite an insular story, as the title might suggest. It's all set in a cabin in the woods, where a same-sex family, two guys, have taken their daughter, Wen, charming performance by Kristen Cui, incidentally, a 7-year-old girl, taking her out for a sort of a holiday out in the forest in this cabin. She's out collecting grasshoppers. She's approached by this huge hulking man, Leonard, played by, of course, Dave Bautista, who appears out of the forest, and he appears quite friendly with her, but he tells her that she and her family have a very difficult decision to make on the next day or so. 3 more strangers appear, brandishing weapons, and she rushes back to the cabin to tell her dads that there's somebody coming. They should barricade the house and tell the strangers to go away. The strangers don't go away. They eventually break into the house, and they tell the trio that they have had visions that the apocalypse is coming, the end of the world is coming, and the only way it can be averted is for one of the 3 sacrifices themselves to save the world. And the story sort of moves on from there. It's very tense. There's an obsession about these 4 characters, and the nature of who these 4 characters are, and I keep stressing the word 4, will become fairly obvious quite quickly. I'm not one of the best people in the world to sort of guess plot turns and twists and things. I like to sort of watch something and let the story unfold. But I sort of realised fairly quickly who these 4 people were supposed to be, and I think you probably will too. But no, it's very interesting. There's this sort of determination. They come across as sort of religious fanatics or cultists, some sort of cult of the apocalypse. They seem completely obsessed and very single-minded about what they need to do. And as the story progresses, they take increasingly extreme measures to try and make the family unit make this decision that they have to make. We then see on the TV that the apocalypse seems to have started. Tsunamis are sweeping the world. There's a plague which is suddenly also sweeping the world. And most interesting and scarily, perhaps, planes are dropping out of the sky. Some very nice scenes of planes just literally falling out of the sky and exploding. And the tension ramps up all the way through. The situation gets more and more unbearable in a way. And then it resolves itself in interesting ways, should we say. I did enjoy this. I had a good time with this. It's not a long film. It's an hour and 40 minutes, which is always a blessing these days. It's not perfect. There are some issues in relation to dialogue. Again, there are a couple of slightly clunky dialogues, particularly one line which made me cringe, where one character says to another one, you vomit out what you think. And there's a couple of slightly creaky lines, but overall it's very well done. I think one of the things to take away from the film is what a good actor Dave Bautista is becoming. We're used to seeing him as Drax in the Guardians of the Galaxy films, which he's now finished doing, of course, with the new one that's coming out this summer. And I think you can tell that that's a good move for him, because Drax is great fun, but it's fairly one note. I think he's capable of a lot more. I mean, if you saw him in Glass Onion fairly recently, the Rian Johnson, Benoit Blanc thriller with Daniel Craig, a great performance in that. So I think, I don't say he's ever going to be an Oscar winner, but I think he's a good actor with a lot of nuance to him. And bearing in mind that he's ex-wrestler, we don't always see the best acting performances. I mean, Dwayne Johnson, bless him, just plays Dwayne Johnson a lot of the time. But I think Dave Bautista has a little bit more to him, despite his imposing physicality. The rest of the cast are equally good. Jonathan Goff and Ben Aldridge are the two dads of the young girl, and they're these sort of guys who are just out to have a good time with their daughter, who are thrust into this extraordinary situation that they can't believe and can't comprehend. Leonard's accomplices, played by Rupert Grint from the Harry Potter films, of course. Nicky Anuka-Bird, one of my favourite British actresses. She was also in Old, Shyamalan's last film, as indeed Rupert Grint was in Servant, Shyamalan's TV series on Apple Plus. I like to see a director have a little repertory company of actors that they can rely on and go back to again and again, particularly with Nicky Anuka-Bird, who I've seen over the years in so many things. Tortured Survivors. She pops up in lots of things, and it's good to see her doing something like this. She's very good in it. We also have Abby Quinn, who plays the last member of the crazy cult, if you like. Very enjoyable, very good film. A lot of people have said, it doesn't explain why it's this particular family that they're focusing on. Why? But that is explained in the narrative, because it's sort of explained that they've all had a shared vision. That's what's brought them all together, and that's what's brought them out to find this particular family. Why this particular family is a whole other issue. But there are questions unanswered, but that sort of didn't particularly bother me, because there are sort of answers there if you look for them. But it's not really about that. It's about the atmosphere of it, the tension, and this sense of menace and fear and danger that this family is in, with these implacable people who are just focused on the fact that these three have got to make a decision, and they will make this decision one way or another. It's very unusual. It's very good. It's Shyamalan, approaching his form again, which is good to see, because I think he's a great filmmaker, but sometimes I think he doesn't make the right decisions in his films. So that's Knock at the Cabin, which is in cinemas from today. I had a good time with it. I really enjoyed it, and I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Again, it's not one of the films at the end of the year I'm going to look back and go, oh yeah, that was fantastic, unless it's a very bad year for films. But certainly January and into February, it's been quite strong. A lot of people have commented on how normally that's a sort of a dumping ground for B movies and films that not much is expected of. But we've had a good run of films over the last 6 weeks, 5 or 6 weeks, which is very good, because it's nice to see these not high profile films doing well and getting an audience. So anyway, I recommend Knock at the Cabin, which is in cinemas now. Hope you've enjoyed this video. I've enjoyed recording it, that's for sure. If you have enjoyed it and you like this sort of stuff, why not click that subscribe button, which is by there. You can also like this and leave a comment and share it and tell your friends. That would be a marvellous and very philanthropic thing for you to do. Thank you for watching. I'll see you very soon. Coming up, there will be more reviews. So yeah, I do have planned a video reviewing the first few episodes of The Last of Us on HBO and Sky Atlantic over here, and Now TV. I wanted to build up a few episodes first before I voiced my thoughts of the series. I've seen 3 episodes. 4th one is out this Monday, so I'll probably do a review of the first 4 episodes next week, but I'm liking it so far. Spoiler. Right, thank you for watching. I'll see you soon. Until I do, you know what they say. You've got to keep taking the stuff.